So Kwite, a YouTuber with over 1.8 million subscribers, made a video yesterday addressing false accusations. Accusations that, amongst other things, ended up doxing and forcing a faceless YouTuber to reveal exactly who they are, that threatened to cost him his reputation and almost 100,000 subscribers when the accusations first hit. Plus, Kwite was forced to talk about intimate details of their life, talking about insecurities, issues with social and other type of phobias, things that you wouldn't be comfortable typically talking about in front of an audience, but they had to do that in order to clear their name. Now, the accusations themselves start with vagary online. You can see the post right here, February the 21st, and build into full-blown accusations with a name and hashtags attached. You can see that right there, hashtag Kwite, hashtag fan art on the 22nd. Now, these allegations, they should have been a red flag from go. Why? Because it's not just allegations of the horrible here. They're talking about allegations where they take credit for everything Kwite has ever done. I mean, listen to this. Quote, "To start in the beginning, I found Kwite's channel when it had less than 500 subscribers, and as a teenager wanted to make art for him. Because he didn't use his face in videos, I thought he would have an easier time if I drew him and recommended he wore sunglasses and a face mask instead of manually keying his face out with a black box. There, I essentially came up with his persona with him and drew various talk sprites for him for free, and he only ever maybe used one." Now, the reason that I mention that is because afterward, they mention something that puts a lot of this into perspective. That's the notion of undiagnosed borderline personality disorder, which they say that they now have a diagnosis of. And really, that hasn't been proven, by the way. They actually put out some mental health papers. It didn't have that on it, but the behavior that they talk about, it really fits into this. I mean, imagine borderline personality disorder like a lens that you see the world through. Only that lens is warped when it comes to relationships. Why? Because of abandonment issues. Heavy imagined abandonment issues. Why? Because of abandonment issues. Kwite actually hits this very point in a discussion that he had about a podcast and a conversation with his accuser. I'm going to listen to this here.
I had a short text exchange where I said I was busy prepping for a podcast I was about to stream and that I had a video to edit afterwards, so I didn't really have the free time to hang. I let Orion know I was busy and I got back to it. A few hours later, I'm wrapped up with the podcast and Orion hits me with, "Hey, can I ask you something?" Apparently the thing that brought this on was that when Orion listened to the podcast that day, the conversation I had with the guest sounded too good. Essentially, I had gotten along with them so well that it made Orion scared I wouldn't be his friend anymore. In other words, the sight of me having other friends or even being friendly with other people came off to Orion as a threat to our friendship. A message like that can get me worried, as I'm sure it does for a lot of folks. So I tell him to go ahead and he asks, "Am I important to you? Genuinely, I'm not being passive aggressive. I just need to know."
Now, Kwite also brought up no-win situations. And no-win situations, I mean, you see that a lot with borderline personality disorder because anything that transpires is proof that somebody is going to leave you. Therefore, everything done, it is a slight. It doesn't matter how innocuous. It doesn't matter if you're trying to please or placate. Everything is wrong. You can see that right here. When my abandonment issues would arise, he would leave me ignored. So, if I'm feeling bad right there, well, he didn't have time for me. And then, when I was having the worst of my time, he would swoop in and save me and keep me under his thumb. Now, Kwite said that this would come up in conversations all the time, too, with the accuser actually saying, you do this to me or you do that to me. Again, this is perception-based. The perception, it is always, again, about somebody doing negative, somebody doing harm. And you'll notice here, it's not just the relationship with Kwite that's mentioned. You also have the parents. And the parents, this is very important as we go forward. Now, the reason that I brought up the parents in addition to Kwite is because the accuser didn't just accuse Kwite. He showed receipts that at the beginning of the relationship that he was having with the accuser, they were accusing the parents too. And it wasn't just saying, oh, they're phobes. It went much, much further, saying that they were doing the horrific. Now, I bring that up, and I want to be careful in how I say this, because diagnosing, it is more like casting a net than an exact science. You're going to have a lot of people fall into that net, but not everyone is going to relate to something like this, I say. In fact, this is for extreme cases here. But you have an article from Psychology Today. They're talking about false allegations, especially when families break up. I mean, any relationship breaking up, this can be just like a divorce. And well, listen to this part here. One of the trends we are seeing in this hashtag #MeToo era is false allegations of abuse or assault made by an angry, irrational, and spiteful, let's just say other. That's the best way to go there. It is important to note that there are many allegations made that are true and proven, and they need to be taken seriously. But there are also false allegations that are made in spite to win. And win, that's whatever. I mean, that can mean anything else. Now, the article here, it's talking about mental illness in conjunction with that. Yeah, can you imagine what mental illness diagnosis comes up more often than not? Borderline personality disorder. And essentially, borderline personality disorder, again, is an intense fear of abandonment. Essentially, the thought process is that you are either with me or against me. And once you are against me, I will destroy you at all costs. Now, when these accusations hit, oh, they hit hard. I mean, we're talking about 13 plus million views. 57,000 likes. And the noise that followed with people denouncing Kwite became so loud that you had dozens of articles spring up talking about the allegations. And if you want to understand reputational damage, all you have to do is look at YouTube numbers. I mean, here, you go back all the way to May 2020. You'll notice Kwite never loses subscribers until the accusations pop up. 60,000 are lost. You have tens of thousands of more. They end up lost within March. Again, you were closing in on 100,000. That's just on YouTube alone. Plus, people were calling for action against the man. They were calling for boycotts. I mean, nasty stuff, considering he is the victim in this situation. And the only so-called evidence that they produced, they were doctored screenshots, conversations, which Kwite actually produced all of those. So you get the entire context of those conversations. You had Kwite's face put out. So this person knew them in real life. Therefore, that meant something nefarious to people. That's just messed up when you think about it. And in the aftermath, they said, yeah, you know what? I did a mental health intake. I have a brief psychological summary. That somehow proves things. And it doesn't, by the way. It doesn't prove anything at all. Because when you pay somebody to be your advocate and you tell them what supposedly transpired, they're going to give you a diagnosis based on that. They're going to believe what you say because they are paid to do so. They're paid to help you out. But that doesn't mean that the events that you brought up ever actually took place. But anyway, let me know what you think about this stuff. I mean, this is a crazy situation. We've seen it come up again and again. I'm glad Kwite finally got to put this stuff behind him. It took an hour and a half. You can imagine the stress that came up making that, the stress of seeing people try to ruin your life and so much more. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. And as always, appreciate the heck out of you. You make this stuff work. Thank you. Share this everywhere.